Hello. This is kind of bittersweet, my swan song. But I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. Most of you know my story. I grew up in Southern California, and exhibited interest in art at a very young age, copying Sunday funnies and stuff out of the paper, and it looked exactly like me, and Snoopy and everything. So my parents knew I had some talent. And so they encouraged me, and I majored in art through school and minored in drama. And I graduated from Cal State Northridge with a major in two-dimensional art and a minor in drama. And being a student of the 70s, it was the era of Jackson Pollock and everything, and big splashy abstract art and everything. I was inspired and interested in that, but it wasn't my deal. And my senior project was actually a big splashy abstract piece and trying to be like Jackson Pollock. And I pulled it off, I got an A, but it didn't mean anything to me. And so I just had to find a venue that meant something to me, you know. So I was kind of discouraged when I left college because it was so dry and academic, and I had very few, unfortunately, inspiring teachers that really inspired me. And so I almost let art go for a while after I graduated. In my early 20s and stuff, I went back into drama and I started acting, and I took acting workshops in North Hollywood and stuff. And I became an extra in TV and movies and stuff. And some of you know I got to read for John Boy Walton. Richard Thomas was leading the show. I went to replace him. And it didn't go on after he left the show. But I had an interview with Mr. Hammond, and that's my claim to fame. But my drama coach didn't let me go into stage and into film. She wanted me to be a stage actor. So I went into musical theater and did musical theater and Shakespeare, travel theater for about 5 years. And then I had a break. And I lived in Boston back east for a year, which was a neat experience. And I lived at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts and saw the sergeant thing, artwork and sculptures and paintings. So that was inspirational. So that got my painting thing going again. And I was like a starting actor all through my 30s and beginning in my 40s. And so I supplemented my income by being a hairstylist. I went in hairstyling. So I got a cosmetology license and graduated at the top of my class. So that funded my painting career. And through a long story short, one of my salon owners when I lived in Santa Barbara for 5 years, those were in some ways the happiest years of my life. I was in 2 theater companies, the Gilbert and Sullivan Company, the Santa Barbara Civic Light Opera, and singing, dancing, and acting. And I won the award for the highest sales of a newcomer at the Santa Barbara Art Association. And everything was just like going. And I was in a beautiful salon in Montecito, and I was doing Julia Child's hair and George Michael and some people, and everything's just clicking. And all in 1 year, both theater companies folded. Because my salon master decided to move, he was European, decided to move back to Switzerland. And so my whole life went away from me. I mean, literally. And I was like devastated. I didn't know what to do. So I ended up in sort of a middle range salon off of State Street in Santa Barbara. And my salon owner was a wonderful woman, and she happened to be the hairstylist and all of this for John Travolta's corporate attorney. He did his taxes and stuff. So long story short, we got to go stay in Paris for 5 weeks in the corporate attorney's house in the outskirts of this beautiful village called Lonsbrough, a few whistle stops out from the A12. And I got to go to Paris with them and just immerse myself in art, and went to all the great museums and saw the Impressionists and the Louvre, the Musée d'Orsay, the Orangerie, all the beautiful museums there. So that really got me going, and I just started painting in my own way after that trip. My first paintings were of Paris, and I really didn't have any painting instruction all through my education. I just did School of Hard Knocks. I majored in drawing. So that's why my drawing skills are pretty pronounced. But I didn't have painting lessons. So in 2020, I joined, 2000, what is this? 2002, I joined the Plein Air Painters of America. I started getting a magazine called Plein Air magazine. And I saved up and went to a workshop in Connecticut, and it was all of the Plein Air Painter in a convention for 5 days, and it was immersive. And in the beautiful area where the American cartoons began with Child Hassan and Merrick Hassan, all those people that were linked with Monet and everyone back in Europe. So that was a wonderful experience, and I started to just get little tips and tricks of the trade from them. And so that has sort of been my thrust for most of my painting career, is the outdoor painting. As you know, I had a really bad bout of skin cancer this last fall, and got my face cut into with all these different skin cancers. So I've got to really watch it. I really believe that I got skin cancer from laying out on the beach too much when I was a kid. It's retro after. And so I'm very if you're all planner artists, put your sunscreen on and make sure it has zinc in it, and wear your big hat, even though you feel silly and stuff, and keep your ears and your neck covered, everything, because skin cancer is no fun. So I have to be very aware of that and cautious with that. So but I do studio work as well, and most of my watercolors are studio because I haven't negotiated the outdoor setup for a watercolor, except for my little sketch called mini kit. My smallest watercolor sketch kit is in a little bag, over my shoulder. Most of you have seen it. And little sketchbook, little water bottle, little tiny cakes of watercolor, and that's how I do my watercolors. And these are all studios. So I won't be able to demonstrate the watercolor technique, but basically, oil technique is dark to light, and watercolor for me is light to dark, starting light and working toward the darks. Now, some people say you should just jumpstart yourself and go in with watercolor and go into your darks right away, but I haven't found that to be true because I'm always aware of saving the whites and having the sparkle and everything. So I work light to dark with the watercolor and dark to light the oil. So these are a few of the regional ones that I've done down here that make more sense for down here, and they're all available in Nevada City, Old Auburn, Upper Old Auburn, First Street opposite what's the name's corner, First Street, the St. Mary's Church, and stuff. So you can check those all out. So today I don't have time, to do a whole painting, but I'm going to show you, hopefully, a magic trick. This was a demo that was done for me by one of my mentors named Ken Oster. I don't know if any of you heard his name, but he was a wonderful man, a surfer dude artist who lived in Laguna Beach, California, and was a beautiful plein air painter, and majored in pictures of San Francisco and Laguna Beach and that area. And he died of prostate cancer. So he did this trick, and I hope I can pull it off too. I'm going to paint a palm tree for you in just a short time. I've got a little reference photo here. And I'm going to work from dark to light, and I'll just try to explain step by step. I don't know if you would be interested in photographing each step, but you're welcome to if you want to. So this is our very own Rockland palm tree. It's just south of the railroad station, Rockland railroad station. And it's a fun shape to create. So I'm going to work from dark to light. And the darks of a palm tree are sort of, they're in between a cool and a warm. It's just like a warm gray. So I'm dipping into ultramarine, alizarin crimson, and Lagosian. One thing that I learned more recently is not to over mix everything on the palette, but to mix right on the canvas. So you can just get a general value or tone, and then you can tweak it and fine tune it as you paint. So I'm not even going to try to do the whole thing. I'm going to just try to do the trunk and the top of this palm tree. And one of the first things that my teachers taught me kind of is to use a backhand. Like some people don't. And my teacher took my brush out of my hand and put it like this and said, go like this. So use a backhand.
What's your color for
What? This color, this was ultramarine, raw sienna, and alizarin crimson. And you know, I'm looking from a photo. If I was outdoors, I'd see into the light and the shadows better. So you just have to mentally remember that everything's out here black and white. And when you're working from photos, you have to remember not to use your middle tones. Because to light in middle tones, and there's backwards. So there's the primary color of the object, there's the top lighting, the side lighting, the reflective lighting. And so that you have to simplify the modeling of the form into how the light is hitting. And in Planning and prima, that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch the way the light hits the object, not necessarily render an object. Okay. So now I'm going to shift. I'm going to keep the same value. I want it dark, but I'm going to make it greenish. Well, the other thing is, you see, I'm starting off with a big old brush. So I don't fiddle with details. I should have changed the timing out button here.
You always use that big size brush?
I love this. This is one of my favorite brushes, either a 12 or a 14 filbert. It's an amazing brush because it can do almost anything. You can turn it sideways, you can hit one little detail with one little tip. And it's just fun. So I'm not going to worry about all the little bronze of this long. It's going to get shape in there. You see, I can mix into it and not darken. Mix. Get technique things to just sort of dip the brush into your chirp and wipe it off, and don't swish it around a lot, and it'll keep your chirps. So now let's see. I want to create some sort of medium gray, a little lighter than the darkest part of the trunk. Test it out. It's always made by them. Don't put it in such a minutes.
Do you always paint from your laptop
In the studio, yeah.
in the studio?
This is how I replicate plein air, yeah, in the studio.
And
Some people have a system that's more advanced than mine, where they set up their computer hooked to a screen like this and paint from the big screen where you can really see. I have friends who are art studios in their garage who have it all hooked up like this on the images on the big screen. That would be ideal. I can work for that, but I don't have that right now.
It's your new place.
I think you can see from there, you can come closer if you want, but
Are you
Just-
using Oleander time right now?
yeah, it's just odorless mineral spirits. Mhm. And I love what's called stumbling. Stumble.
What's tumbling?
Stumbling is dragging paint over the under surface, you're building up and just making it break over the top of the under layer until it starts to sculpt and you start to get the light. Palm trees have a lot of sort of orangey underpinning. The branches on the bottom tend to be, dried and more dead than the top green ones. Like one of my teachers said, it's not about the object, it's about the paint. You know,
What brand do you think?
I like Windsor Newton and Gambling is nice. Every once in a while, I get the young brands. Now, I feel like I rush toward the lights and I want to punch and some more delicate drugs. It's like that little German man on the PBS, remember the old series of preceding Bob Ross, that little German man, Bill Alexander. That was, you've got to have the dog to show the light. That was his catchphrase. You've got to have the dog to show the light. And that's true. That was dark to show them the light. So yeah, function. You have to have the dog to show them.
Well,
Cylinder, my dark cylinder, then you can start putting these lights in. And all prima, let's see what I'm doing. I've done fiddle with it. And the less I fiddle with it, the better the brush stroke is. It's just there. And then, brush just starts tint, you know, cut in some sky around everything. I like to combine a warm and cool in the sky. And it's always much darker at the top. And the bottom.
Do you use, your, your foreground? Yes, I use.
If I'm doing a scene, I do what's called a roadmap of doing the composition with maybe a faint outline. I don't want to necessarily draw outlines and fill them in, but I want to get the relative masses of the puzzled shapes in first. Then I create all the shadows. Since you're painting outdoors and you're going to knock this out in under 2 hours, you have to put all the shadows in. So I'll make a neutral, a muddy, gray purple with ultramarine and a little alizarin and maybe some sienna with a little white in it. And I'll put in all the shadows that I'll do here. Then you get the light pattern. And then watercolor. The shadows. So you do the shadows first, then work into the light. Because then you've frozen the light into the way the shadows are hitting the objects. Reference. And when your darks are connected and your lights are connected, you have a stronger composition. Instead of a PC. It's bad average, isn't it?
Love all the flowers, but,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily.
So when you're working like this, are you concerned like you're gonna get some of that blue into the green and then what do you do?
Yeah, and I do sometimes, and I am, and that you can always clean, up. And the more you load the brush and like put it down and don't fiddle with it, the less you'll have the weed problem. See, if I even go in the second time, I get the weed problem.
So if
And
you
then
were,
I'm gonna switch to another little brush to cut into the palm tree.
if you were doing this in acrylics, would it be similar?
Yeah, it's just that acrylic has that quicker drying time,
Right.
so you have to work quickly and you can't do them quite as well. I always like to put just a little bit of the zoom one.
Color are you using for the sky?
I use a little bit of cerulean with a little bit of ultramarine. What a raw cinnamon and a pale yellow medium. One thing with using what's called a limited palette, like I've got a warm and cool of each color going in. So. It's a automatic harmony. And you almost can't make a mistake, even if I get a little bit of nuts and stuff. They're, within the color family from, what's called a mother puddle. Like, one of my mentors said, if you've got a good mother puddle, you've got it all going. So all the muds and stuff that you get, the shadow colors and stuff, they're gonna be okay, because they're in the color palette. It's okay. So I'm going to switch to this other impression, see if I can cut in the. And there's a certain point that if I'm having trouble and adding on paint, I'm gonna switch to a knife.
You go through a lot of pain, pain that you're wiping the paint, some of the paint off in the towel.
Do I go through a lot of paint?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and one of my instructors said, always paint like you're rich, don't skim it, don't go. I just want it was a little, because paint is so precious, just squeeze it out, make a mess, and the more paint you have on it, the more painty it is, and then people like it, they like brush strokes and they like paint and stuff, so just go with it.
Do you plan to teach when you move up to Oregon?
I might, I'll look into the, adult education center like I was, down here and see if there's an opportunity. I had a couple of negative experiences where students stormed out on me. Did you know about that?
Oh, no.
Yes, yeah, I was traumatized. I had never had that happen before. And I had this student that I didn't pay good money to have this happen or whatever, it's like. And I in general got what was called a 5-star rating as a teacher with Sierra, but there's always someone. There's always something.
There's one in every crowd, that's what I say.
Yeah. And the other thing is that painting is exaggeration, you don't have to do verbatim. So what attracted you to this tree? Is the light coming from the sun?
What do you do with that paragraph? Like all that.
Right. I save all these things and I try to take as much as I can to recycling, waste management and recycling. Like I just took a big load of dirty turpentine and stuff. I funnel all my dirty turpentine into the used thinner buckets and I label it sludge and I take it to the recycling center. And unfortunately, some of those things just go in the dump. One foot dump, but I try to get rid of them. They are dangerous to keep in your house and stuff, they can self-combust, but
Yes.
I didn't realize that in the summer, so when we had these 120, 140-degree garages, it's
Yeah,
not
that's
safe,
not
so
good.
did it happen to
But it
you?
wasn't. The turpentine, it was the teak oil.
Oh,
And so I just laid the rags over the top of the can and then. And it was hot up in pool. So I went out to the garage and go, where's the smoke coming from, you know?
yeah.
Little thing we went out there.
And also, if you have the rods to like with your clean,
And I used to that,
well, can you like get rid of the rags, and you get rid of the clean?
yes, yeah, that's what I said, yeah, I took it to the recycling, but they have a different place for it. You know. Of where that's dirty chips and- What? So yeah, hopefully that we can put some highlights on with the night. Scratch. You know how one makes scratch? Thing? Have you ever seen when they have close, like the poplars and stuff, like one of them on the top inside, you just took a knife or the back end of the brush and scraped the peanut. There's all these zigzag scrapings where you just scrape it off and you marks. Mhm.
You have any paper towels?
Yeah, they have these shop towels. And we use them a lot.
Can you put those in the trash or no?
Yeah, I do throw them in the trash. And
Like yeah, I do the same thing. So do I. I do the
The
same thing.
rags, you should probably put in a bucket of water after you get rid of them.
The rags.
I'll soak them in water.
Just a bucket
That's a good idea.
of fire hose. Yeah. I like your tree better than the one on your screen.
So see that very end, the lightest little highlights coming
Mm.
with the knife.
Are you using the very edge of your knife so it's
I use
really
different
thin?
parts, like sometimes I drag it, sometimes I do the point. The point?
Afterwards, you didn't like and then have phone do it over again or.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just not in the zone or something and it's not coming together and I think. I just have to make a decision, is this just a waste or can it be redeemed? And so I'll give it a shot in the studio. I always take a reference photo when I start out, so it throws in my life in photo as well. So I'll go back into the studio and give it another go. And if I, like, sometimes it's just that I got so excited, like, you know, some colors got bleedy and we could clean them. You just clean your tints and even Corot and all the things with 19th century impressionists artists said, when you get inside, your eyes have opened up or shut down, whatever they do in the outdoors, and you have to adjust the values and the tints when you're in the studio. So I figure even if I work a little bit, like a half hour, even up to an hour on a painting, I've been out in the field doing for 2 hours, it's still a cleaning. It just was cleaning and twinkled a little bit, but it's basically a cleaning. If I go on and paint over the whole thing and you do the sky, the trees, the cars, everything, then it's not a plan anymore. It reverts to the studio. So does anyone have any questions?
So could you read off your palette of what you use as far as your colors?
Well, yeah, it's different for different things, but basically the basic palette is a warm and cool of all the primaries.
Right.
Plus, I use raw sienna and sometimes burnt umber or raw umber. I don't totally eliminate the colors, but normally I can do almost everything. Like if I was really in a pinch, if I just had ultramarine blue, tad yellow light, and alizarin crimson. I can make warm blues and cool blues from those combinations. I can make earth greens, I can make sands and everything. I don't need any auxiliary ones. Now, when I use auxiliary colors, it's like when I'm out in the lavender field, like lavender is so tricky. I cheat and I have a what's it called, dioxin, purple, whatever. Violet and a magenta. Sometimes you can't get pretty flower colors or even the roses and stuff unless you have some magenta and some of the what I call candy colors. Those are a little bit cheap, but flowers are sort of radiant green. You have those jewel tones and stuff. And sometimes I use viridian green. This is an example of viridian green. It's when it's a not natural green. That's viridian. See that green? That's viridian.
Oh,
It's not a bright color. So that's one of my candy colors. Van Gogh used it a lot, amazingly. When you look at Van Gogh's greens, the pale ones, even sunflowers and stuff, that's viridian. That has a lot of light in it. It's a huge turquoisey green. And some people say that you can only get a real zinging, like Mediterranean blue sea instead of you use phthalo. Phthalo is so stinging, and I'm such a pig, as you can tell. But phthalo just, have you ever gotten it on yourself? It stings so bad, I can't do it out of anything, so I don't use it. But I did do one piece that had beautiful glass that had a turquoisey glow, and I used phthalo, and it really glowed. But I had just borrowed the skills from someone and got the effect. So can we all see that? Can I show it? Can this? See, so in a short time we built up, most of the values and stuff. Then we can tweak it. Say, here in Rockland, a little art family.
We're gonna.
That was something that and everything. And some of my family is here, so I'll come down from time to time to visit. So hopefully.
Were you gonna stay for the member show?
No, I'll be done. I leave actually June 9th. June 9th is my last day. Then I'll come back with a truck, so I have to go up and down twice. Once just in my car to do the art show with them, and then I have to come back with a friend with my car and get to the haul truck and go back up again and finish the show. So that'll be my ideal move to do it. So keep painting, guys.
Hey, Don, I'd like to know, who did you annoy to get all the splatters on your shirt?
What did I know? I know teenage and kitties in Portland.
It's cute.
But thank you, Jackie, for all your promotion and support and everything from your end and all the communications that you and your crew do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you too. I just told somebody how generous and giving you've been to RFA. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate being a part of y'all. So thank you.
Are you able to move your painting? Or you have to move your whole thing? I just want a close-up of your,
Painting.
yes.
It really is translating well on the TV.
Really?
That's beautiful, Don. And our guest said you articulate very nicely.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
Maybe we can take a picture of it.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Jackie, we can stop.
Okay, you guys, have a good one. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, Jack.
Miss
Take care.
And I have a question. What would you sell it for?
I was gonna say, I already bought it.
Just
you already
so
bought
you
it.
know. This size in my gallery is about 400.
Wow.
And my 8x10s are 550 to 595. And it's up. My 5x7 is like
There is,
355.
it's interesting because there is a proper painting, a small painting with 3 palm trees right now, online. That's as good as